Nathan Crawford sat at the corner table of the Riverside Cafe, nervously adjusting his watch. At 32, he'd agreed to this blind date mostly to get his sister off his back. She'd been insisting for months that he needed to get out more, meet someone, stop burying himself in work. He was a corporate lawyer, successful by any measure. Dark hair styled perfectly, a charcoal suit that spoke of careful attention to detail, a gold watch that had been his father's. On paper, his life looked impressive. In reality, he felt like he was going through the motions. The cafe was warm and inviting, with exposed brick walls and soft lighting that made everyone look better than they probably did in daylight. Nathan had arrived 15 minutes early, a habit from years of never wanting to be the one who kept people waiting. He was scrolling through his phone when he heard her voice. "Nathan?" He looked up and felt his breath catch. She was beautiful. Mid-20s, with long blonde hair that caught the light, dressed simply in a cream-colored blouse that somehow looked elegant in its simplicity. But it was her eyes that held him. They were studying him with an intensity that made him uncomfortable, like she could see right through his carefully constructed facade. "Yes. Hi. You must be Claire," he said, standing quickly and offering his hand. She took it, her grip firm, her smile polite but guarded. "Thank you for agreeing to this. I know blind dates can be awkward." "No, it's fine. Really. My sister speaks very highly of you." They sat down. A server came by to take their order. Nathan suggested the house specialty coffee, and Claire agreed. The first few minutes passed in the typical awkward small talk that accompanies any first meeting between strangers. Claire asked about his work. He gave his practiced explanation of corporate law, making it sound more interesting than it usually felt. She listened attentively, asking thoughtful questions that suggested she was genuinely engaged rather than just being polite. "And what about you?" Nathan asked. "My sister mentioned you work in education." "I'm a high school teacher. English literature. It doesn't pay much, but I love it. Watching kids discover books that change how they see the world, that's pretty special." Nathan smiled. "That sounds rewarding. What made you choose teaching?" Claire's expression shifted slightly, became more guarded. "I had a teacher once who saw me when I felt invisible. Who believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. I wanted to be that person for someone else." There was weight behind her words, a story she wasn't telling. Nathan found himself curious, wanting to know more. But before he could ask, Claire leaned forward slightly, her eyes searching his face. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course." "You don't remember me, do you?" The question landed like a stone dropped in still water. Nathan felt confusion ripple through him. He studied her face more carefully, looking for something familiar, some trigger of recognition, but there was nothing. He was certain he'd never met this woman before. "I'm sorry, I don't understand." "Have we met?" Claire's smile was sad, knowing. 15 years ago. We went to the same high school. Westfield Academy. Nathan's mind raced back. Westfield Academy. He'd gone there for his junior and senior years after his family moved to the city. But that was a lifetime ago. He'd been a different person then. Popular, confident, captain of the debate team, dating the head cheerleader. Those 2 years had been some of the best of his life. "I was there," he said carefully. "But I'm sorry I don't remember you. Were we in classes together?" "A few. But we weren't exactly in the same social circles. You were Nathan Crawford, golden boy. I was Claire Morrison, the scholarship kid who sat in the back and tried not to be noticed." Claire Morrison. Nathan searched his memory but came up empty. He felt a growing sense of discomfort, sensing this conversation was heading somewhere he wasn't prepared for. "I'm sorry I don't remember," he said honestly. "There were a lot of people at that school." There were. And most of them made sure I knew I didn't belong. The girl with the second-hand clothes and the free lunch vouchers. The one whose dad was the janitor at the school. Nathan's stomach tightened. He remembered now, vaguely, that there had been a janitor with a daughter who attended. He remembered jokes, cruel jokes made by his friends. Jokes he'd laughed at, or at least hadn't stopped. "Claire, Let me finish," she said gently, not unkindly. "I need to say this. When your sister set this up, when she told me your name, I almost said no. Because 15 years ago, you were part of a group that made my life hell. Not directly, maybe, You never threw things at me or wrote cruel things on my locker, but you stood by and watched. You laughed at the jokes, and once, just once, you did something that I've never forgotten. Nathan wanted to leave, to escape this confrontation with a past he'd barely thought about, but something kept him in his seat. Maybe it was the way Claire was looking at him, not with anger, but with something more complicated. Sadness, perhaps, or maybe just the need to be heard. It was spring of your senior year, Claire continued. There was a big party at Jessica Winter's house. Her parents were away. Everyone who was anyone was going. I wasn't invited, obviously, but I had to work that night anyway, cleaning offices downtown with my dad. We needed the money. Nathan remembered that party. It had been legendary, the kind of night that felt important when you're 17, and everything feels like it matters more than it actually does. I was walking home from the bus stop around midnight, still in my cleaning uniform. I passed by Jessica's house. The party was still going, and there you were, sitting on the front steps by yourself. You looked upset about something. Your girlfriend, probably. I remember hearing you'd broken up that week. A memory flickered. Nathan did remember sitting on those steps, feeling dramatic and heartbroken the way only a 17-year-old can. I walked past, trying to be invisible like always. But you looked up and saw me. I thought you'd say something cruel, or call your friends to come laugh at the poor girl in the cleaning uniform. But you didn't. Claire's voice softened. You asked if I was okay, if it was safe for me to be walking alone that late. I said I was fine, that I lived nearby, and then you did something that confused me so much. You pulled a $20 bill from your wallet and tried to give it to me. You said, take a cab home. It's not safe. Nathan had no memory of this. None at all. But he could picture himself doing it, drunk and emotional and trying to feel like a good person. I didn't take it, Claire said. I was too proud, too angry at you and everyone like you. I said I didn't need your charity. And you know what you said? Nathan shook his head, afraid to hear it. You said, it's not charity. It's just one human being looking out for another. Please. It would make me feel better. And you looked so genuine, so concerned, that I took it. I took the cab home, and I cried the whole way because I couldn't reconcile the boy who'd stood by while his friends mocked me with the boy who'd just shown me unexpected kindness. The cafe felt too warm. Nathan's collar felt too tight. He didn't know what to say. Why are you telling me this? He asked quietly. Claire took a sip of her coffee, which had long since grown cold. Because when your sister told me about you, described you as this successful lawyer who seemed lost, who worked too hard and never let anyone in, I wondered if you remembered that night. If you remembered me. And when I saw you sitting here looking so perfectly put together and so completely alone, I knew you didn't. I'm sorry, Nathan said, and meant it. I'm sorry I don't remember. I'm sorry I was part of something that hurt you. I was 17 and stupid and thought being popular mattered more than being kind. I know, Claire said simply. We all were. But here's the thing, Nathan. That moment on those steps, that small act of kindness from someone I'd written off as just another privileged kid who didn't care, it stayed with me. It made me realize that people are more complicated than the boxes we put them in. That everyone is capable of kindness, even people who've been cruel. It's part of why I became a teacher. To see the complicated humans behind the facades? Nathan felt something crack open inside him. Your sister didn't tell you who I was? Oh, she did. That's why I agreed to come. I wanted to see who you'd become. If that boy who told me it wasn't charity, just one human looking out for another, was still in there somewhere. And? Claire smiled, and this time it reached her eyes. I think he is. Buried under expensive suits and 70-hour work weeks. But he's there. Looking tired and lonely and like he forgot somewhere along the way that success and happiness aren't the same thing. Nathan laughed, a real laugh that surprised him. You're not pulling any punches, are you? Life's too short. I spent too many years being invisible. Now I say what I mean. They talked for 3 more hours. Really talked. Nathan found himself telling Claire things he hadn't told anyone. About the pressure he felt to live up to his father's legacy. About how he'd built this perfect life that felt empty. About how he couldn't remember the last time he'd done something just because it made him happy. Claire told him about her father, who'd passed away 5 years ago. About how hard he'd worked to give her opportunities. About students she'd taught who'd overcome impossible odds. About her small apartment full of books and plants and the life she'd built that wasn't glamorous but felt real. When the cafe staff started putting chairs on tables, they realized they'd been the last customers for over an hour. Outside, the night air was cool and fresh. They stood on the sidewalk, neither quite ready to say goodbye. "I should confess something," Nathan said. "I almost canceled tonight. Told my sister I was too busy with a case. Would have been a lie, but a convenient one." "I'm glad you didn't." "Me too." He hesitated, then continued. "Would you maybe want to do this again? Not a setup, just us. I'd like to get to know the woman who remembered me better than I remembered myself." Claire studied him for a long moment. "On one condition." "What's that?" "Next time we skip the expensive cafe. There's a diner near my school that serves the best pie in the city. Nothing fancy, but it's real. Can you handle that?" Nathan smiled, feeling lighter than he had in years. "I think the expensive cafe version of me needs to meet the diner version of you. Might do him some good. Might do both of us some good." They went on that second date. And a third. And somewhere around the 10th, Nathan realized he was falling in love with a woman who'd been invisible to him when it would have cost him nothing to see her. Claire taught him to slow down, to find joy in simple things, to measure success by different metrics. Nathan helped Claire see that her past didn't define her, that she'd built something beautiful from difficult circumstances. A year later, Nathan left his corporate firm to start a nonprofit providing legal services to low-income families. It paid a fraction of what he'd made before, but he couldn't remember ever feeling more fulfilled. 2 years after that, he proposed. Not at an expensive restaurant, but at that diner Claire loved over pie and coffee. "You know what I think about sometimes?" he said, as he slipped the ring on her finger while she cried happy tears. "That 17-year-old kid sitting on those steps. If I could go back and talk to him, I'd tell him that the moment he thought was insignificant, just a small gesture to make himself feel better, would lead him to the love of his life. That kindness is never wasted, even when we don't remember giving it." "And I'd tell 17-year-old me," Claire replied, "that the girl who felt invisible would one day be seen, truly seen, by someone who learned to look past surfaces. That our stories aren't finished just because we had hard chapters. They were married 6 months later. Small ceremony, close friends and family, nothing fancy. Claire's students came and formed a guard of honor with books instead of swords. It was perfect. Years later, they'd tell the story of their first date to their own children. About a blind date that wasn't blind at all, but a second chance neither of them knew they needed. About how we're all more than our worst moments and our best moments. Just complicated humans trying to find our way. And sometimes, if we're very lucky, we find someone who remembers us better than we remember ourselves. Someone who sees not just who we are, but who we could be. Someone who gives us the gift of being truly known. That's not charity. That's just one human being looking out for another. And sometimes, it's everything. If this story reminded you that we're all capable of growth and second chances, please like, share, and subscribe for more stories about the complexity of being human. Leave a comment about a time someone saw the best in you when you couldn't see it yourself. We all need those reminders.